こんばんは。ForexTV ニューヨークのレミです。2月7日木曜日の為替レポート、ニューヨークレビューをお伝えします。7日のアメリカ株式相場は反発しました。ダウ工業株30種平均は前日比46ドル90セント高の 12,247 ドルで終えた。ナスダック総合株価指数は 14.28 ポイント高の 2293.03 で終えた。ニューヨーク外国為替市場で円相場は反落しました。ドル円は前日比95銭円安ドル高の1ドル107円40銭から50銭で取引を終えた。またユーロ円は前日比5銭円高ユーロ安の155円65銭から75銭で取引を終えた。またユーロは対ドルで大幅に続落しました。 1.44 ドル台後半に下落しました。欧州中央銀行は政策金利を 4% で据え置きました。理事会後の記者会見内容で早期売り下げ観測が強まりユーロが売られました。それでは FX ソリューションズのジョセフ・トレヴィサーニさんとのインタビューをご覧ください。
Well, in today's session, we saw the U.S. dollar continue to be supported against the euro. And earlier this morning, we had both the rate announcements from the ECB as well as the BOE. So let's start out with what we saw in price action for euro dollar, which hit a low of 1.4440.
Right.
So going forward, what do you expect to see in euro dollar?
I think we may have reached, the apex of the pendulum swing. I think it's now starting to move back the other way. The markets had long been anticipating, without any particular help from the ECB, in fact, active hindrance from the ECB, but the markets have been anticipating, traders have been anticipating a rate cut by the ECB, a rate move to the neutral side at the very least, which we got today. One of the more interesting aspects of this was the market really did, and traders really telegraphed this for the past 2 weeks. It has been a very long run of very dollar-weak moves, both by the Fed, with its unexpected rate cut. It's followed by a 50 basis point rate cut, and a string of very bad U.S. statistics, none of which drove the dollar appreciably lower. Clear signal. The market and traders didn't want to take the dollar lower. They were just looking for a signal, and I think we got it today.
Well, as you mentioned, we have been seeing weak data both on the employment front here in the U.S. and also the weak ISM number. And watching what we've been seeing in price action for the sterling, earlier today the BOE cut by 25 basis points to 5.25%, and the sterling has pulled back under 194 against the US dollar. So going forward, what do you expect to see in price action for sterling?
Well, sterling is an interesting case. The market traders had pretty much expected this. It was a universal expectation that they would do this. So you had already priced into the sterling level this 25% basis, this 0.25% cut. Going forward, they seem to be a little more reluctant to continue, or at least to let the market anticipate future rate cuts. So you're probably going to see a bit of a pullback, meaning the other way, a little bit higher in the sterling, because they're not going to anticipate as much coming. The thing for the ECB was, although it was widely, I wouldn't say rumored, but widely perhaps hoped for, there had been no indication from the ECB prior to today that they would change their stance. There had been some indications from the BOE.
Well, before we shift our focus away from today's rate announcements, if you could shed light on Trichet's comments today. He highlighted downside risks to growth,
yes,
and also mentioned that 4% rates allow for price stability. So how does that translate into what we'll see going forward for the European currency?
Well, you can take the first one's kind of fun. He said that they anticipate future downside risk to growth. Where have we heard that phrase before? Of course, we've heard it many times from Ben Bernanke. Obviously, it's true, and the numbers that they're looking at internally clearly predict this, and that's why they've moved to this. As for the 4% ensuring price stability, that's certainly a new view from the ECB, because up till now, not so much Trichet himself, but some of the other board members, especially the German board members, have been keeping up quite a drumbeat for the potential we could, as they say, raise rates if we have to. Well, of course they could. No one ever thought that they would, but the change in rhetoric is quite significant.
以上 FX ソリューションズのジョーセフ・トレヴィサンニさんとのインタビューでした。 ForexTV ニューヨークのレビがお伝えしました。最新の為替情報については ForexTV ジャパンをご覧ください。